So I've been playing a lot of Resident Evil lately, and it's so satisfying breaking these barrels every damn time. Which got me thinking, how much effort actually goes into making one of these assets? Could I make something from a free one? In this video, I'll show you how I made the Resident Evil barrel from a free asset. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe before we get started. Let's get into it. So to get started, we obviously need a free asset. For this video, I'm going to be using the Adobe Substance 3D Asset Store to grab the barrel. Now this is a pretty good asset straight out of the gate, but what I want to do is start combining a whole bunch of stuff and merging and deleting things to optimize it a little bit more to my workflow. I just wanted to use that original barrel as somewhat of a shortcut, so I didn't have really any issue with deleting and getting rid of and modifying as many pieces as I could. I wanted to use the subdivision 1 level of this as my render mesh, so I didn't go too crazy with the topology, but tried to be as neat as I possibly could. So I used a lot of the internal ZBrush tools to match a lot of the proportions of the reference that I had, and I figured that this is probably the best stage to be doing it, so getting the general silhouette and shape of my reference at this point is super important. As I was adjusting pieces, I was deleting the other ones, duplicating and mirroring them, and then also getting rid of a bunch of edge loops in areas that I didn't need. Okay, so this is where I feel like we really started to step out from the free asset to like the custom AAA asset, which is adjusting each board to be bigger and smaller on each side. I feel like this is a real telltale sign between like a good AAA asset and a bought one is the love and care that goes into the storytelling and trying to make this thing look as unique as possible. I used this cool masking and rotating technique because the barrel was at the center of my scene. Then I wanted to grab a couple of unique boards so that I could mask the others, so I could easily create some randomness in the lengths of the board like there is in the reference. While I've still got those tops masked, I was pretty heavy-handed with like move topological brush so that I could go through and actually individually move and pull, tweak each little board so that the tops were bent and interesting. Adding surface detail in ZBrush is way easier when you've got like semi-neat UVs, so I just went and did a quick UV pass in Maya to get my boards and metal bars all straight so that I could use the surface noise tool inside of ZBrush. Making sure all my UVs were going straight up and down in Maya, then I can go over to the surface noise and then map by UV. This is a super easy method to add in detail into your high poly, and then when we bake the high poly down in Substance Painter, we're going to have all this fiber detail to use with our generators and masks. Because I had multiple sections of this timber, you can just go to the surface noise and copy and then paste your settings from one surface noise on one subtool to a different subtool. So this is my process for baking high and low poly. What we want to do is group all of our subtools into a folder, then merge that folder with all the high subdivisions activated so that we have a single mesh that we can then decimate, so it's a lot lighter to bring into Substance Painter for when we need to bake it down. So depending on what your game is and what engine you're going into, this part would be very important as far as reducing the poly count of this low poly. But for the purposes of this video, I'm going to use the subdivision 1 and apply a single material to all of my subtools, so that it's all under one texture set, but I still have access to all of those individual subtools inside of Substance Painter. So we're just going to do a simple low to high poly bake, but I just wanted to show, as you can see here, the high poly fibers coming through on that bake. It's super important as that black and white information is going to be used for all our generators and masking moving forward to really crank up that uniqueness with our texturing. So again, I'm using the Substance Asset Store just to try a bunch of different materials. It's really good for just downloading multiple materials and throwing them on and seeing what works and seeing what would work as a good base. Because when it comes to really good detailed texturing, I find that a lot of it comes from layering. So getting these basic materials down first as a base enables us to have a good platform to be able to layer things on top of it, try to make it look more unique, and most importantly, try to make it look a lot more like our reference. So this is the first instance where I've actually used the generator maps to create that look that this Resident Evil has, where it has like almost like a white highlight on top of the timber. So I've duplicated my timber material and then added a black mask with a dirt generator on top and lightened that timber. So it's basically I'm driving the light spots of the timber using my wear from the maps that we baked. So you can actually see there it's targeting all of those really nice thin fibers from the timber underneath as that light sun damaged area, which is a real look that actually I feel comes with the Resident Evil games. Everything has almost like a white halo around it, even the metals. So you can see the edges of the metals. It reads a lot better on screen and in-engine and in-game, so I can see why this is the technique that they use. Layering up different generators on top inside of that mask is another way to create interest inside of that mask and then bring through a lot more of that white information through on top of the dark timber. I don't know why this is something I was really looking forward to doing, but doing the spray paint section of the barrel seemed like an important part of its character. But as far as the technical way of doing it, much like all the other texturing techniques that I do, have a fill material then with a mask over the top, and then as you're painting in the information, paint into the mask. That way you can add in and layer different fill layers and paint layers inside of that so that you can add to the breakup of that paint. As you can see here, I'm using like drips and hand painting and clouds to add white and black information to add and subtract from that mask. When you want to layer up inside of your masking like that, you can see inside of my blending modes there, I'm using a combination of normal, subtract, screen, multiply to add and subtract different black and white information from that mask. It wouldn't be a Resident Evil barrel without some topical grime, so I just added in some triplanar grime masking around the metal areas. So I've just added those in as a fill layer inside of the mask and then duplicated them and adjusted the material attributes like in the roughness and in the color to make it a little bit more like a leaky grime. Pretty much the exact same thing except the inverse. So I'm just adding another fill layer onto a dirt layer, so we're looking up from the bottom, and then adding a dirt material from the substance library. As I knew the scene this was going to be going into, and it's going to be in like a dirty field, I thought it would add a little bit more interest to it at the bottom of the barrel. So for the presentation, I got this great free medieval village from Quixel Megascans. You can get it on the Fab store, and we want to export our textures using a Unreal Engine 5 template directly to that project folder. It's really good practice to set up your exports directly to your project folder, because every time you iterate, you just have to click one button and everything automatically updates in scene. One thing to remember when importing your mesh is go down to Advanced and tick Combine Meshes so that it brings in the mesh as a single mesh and it has the material that we assigned in Maya. If for whatever reason your textures have come in as virtual textures, go up to Asset Actions, then go down to Edit Selection in Property Matrix, and you can change everything as a mass way here. So you can turn off all the virtual texturing, and you're going to want to turn off the sRGB from your packed map as well. I'm also going to pinch one of the material instances that came with this scene and copy it over to my barrel folder, because it already has all the texture inputs that I need. Then all you need to do is drag in your textures up to the nodes that are already created in the material instance, then drag the material instance onto your mesh, or if you wanted to do it the proper way, double click into the mesh and then go into the static mesh editor and drop it in there. This material instance was kind of cool. It had a bunch of color correction parameters already in there, so I just started adjusting them to try to match it a little bit better to the scene. And that's how I made the Resident Evil barrel from a free asset. I hope you liked this video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. See yous!